Hey everyone, and welcome to this month's Solve Critiques. Details on how to get your solves critiqued are on patreon.com/jperm. In the first scramble, you had a very straightforward white cross. Green is attached to blue, orange with red, and red with orange. So you just put all these opposites in at once, and then blue is up here. So you did D2 to align the cross, and then insert blue like this. An important thing to notice this cross is this edge is attached to this corner, and together they will be solved at the end. Now this doesn't always mean it'll be solved, but the way that you did this at the end does mean it will be solved. There's actually another one right here that ends up being solved, but we'll just focus on this one. So when you see this, you should try to take advantage of it, and one way you can do that is with an X cross. You don't have to be using lots of X crosses at your level because they can be hard to see, but this one should be pretty simple. If you know the corner will be solved, then let's just skip ahead to the end. So right before you insert it, it's going to go in with the edge that was already down here, like that. So we just want the correct edge, the red-blue edge here, with blue on the front, so it will go into the correct spot. So before doing the D2, you can instead do D prime, then put this edge here, and then D prime again. So it's really just like adding an R2, and then now we can insert this, and it makes an X cross. So that's kind of like solving first pair in one move. But even if you don't see the X cross and you notice the corner will be solved, this is still something you can take advantage of from the beginning. Because in the early slots, anytime you have a corner solved, these are the best cases. But if you save them for the end of the solve, like you did in this solve, then they end up being not quite as good. So just to show what I mean, if you want to solve this one, you can use keyhole, and that is just putting an unsolved corner underneath it, inserting the edge, and then coming back. That's very easy for look ahead as not much moves, and it's also very short. This corner was solved as well, and its edge doesn't look like it's in a great spot, but this is also a great case, which I showed in my F12 tricks video, and that is like this. What you ended up going for is red-green, which alone is a good pair, but given that these are here, I would recommend solving these first. So you did red-green, and then a really similar case right here. And now we have these two pieces and the corners are solved. So here you could still use keyhole for one of them. So for example, you could do it for the orange blue, and that can give you a nice case for the last one. So as long as you're not on last slot, if you have a solved corner, you should try and solve it with keyhole. So this was done with the beginner method like this, but then rotate so it's a back slot, which makes the next one easier. And then this and this. So again, the same idea. Next is 2-look OLO. So make the cross. And then this case. So here you did Y perm since it's a diagonal corner swap. And then H perm, which you started with this, not necessary, but oh well. Before moving on, I do want to point out that in that last solve, between a lot of the pairs, you had a lot of pausing. It appears right now you don't really use look ahead, so I don't have any super specific look ahead tips for you besides just to look away from the pair you're solving and look anywhere else. This won't be true for the cases I pointed out where I recommend switching to doing something else, but for the cases you're already good at, you should definitely start doing look ahead. For this cross, there's green here, and then red is attached, orange is here, and blue is in a bad spot. The way you started this cross was great. You faced this side and did orange first, like that. And what that does is, since red is already done, we can save that for the end. Orange actually moves blue into a much better spot. So anytime you have a flipped edge in the cross, you do want to move it out. So that's a really good start, but then the next thing you did wasn't very good. What you did from here might have just been a mistake from inspection because this is pretty obvious what to do. What you did instead was put red here, which is okay, I guess, but then you ended up doing like a Y3 prime and then inserted blue. So we'll just pretend that didn't happen. This was your first pair and you made a mistake by first rotating to have it over the slot and then pairing them normally and inserting into a back slot. That part's fine. But from here, if this slot is unsolved, this is actually the best place to get this pair because you can just go over the edge right now and then that saves you the rotation. After that pair, you found this one next and did this again with 2 cube rotations, which is never necessary. You only ever need at most 1. So in this case, you did it like this to pair it up and then insert into the back. Instead, for this case, you can put the corner over here and then do this. And that pairs them up and can be solved without a rotation. After that, you have these 2 pretty bad pairs, so I'll just show what you did first, but then I'll show some ideas you could use that could make this a lot better. What you did was take this out like this. Now there's a few problems with that. First is the regrips. You never want to regrip your thumb to the bottom for F2L, because if you ever need to do something like U prime here, you can just do it like this or this. So what you did was take it out and then solve this pair how you normally do, which involves a rotation from here. So just like this. So just in general, for terrible slotted pairs like this, if you're going to take it out and solve it in some intuitive way, then you should take it out in a way that splits them. So you can always have the choice of taking it out, then moving U in either direction. In this case, you want to move it this way, as it then splits them up and makes for a much nicer case. Or for this case, there is also a trick like this, which just pairs them up so you don't have to rotate at all. The other option is if you see something terrible like this, but there is another pair you could work with, you could work with this one instead in a way that splits up this one. So however you normally solve this will involve some unsolved slots, so you can just put this one here and start solving it right here. And then that gives you this pair to insert into the back, or, well, yeah, you could do that, and then this ends up being paired, which I didn't expect it to be that great of a case, but it is just going to be a better case than it would have been in the beginning. After the way you solved this case, then you had these 2. So here, and insert like that. If there's a dot case, you could actually insert with a sledgehammer, and that orients some edges and could give you a pretty good case. And next you had a dot, so you did 2 look OLL. For anyone who knows full OLL, that's going to be a bit hard to watch, because if you know any algorithms, you also want to know what they solve, because you know that that makes the cross, but you also want to know when it makes full OLL. And in this case, it's going to be when it's like this, these 2 bars on the right and this one on the left. So if you just do it from here, you get the top solved. But back to what you did, so 2 look OLL and then this algorithm and PLL, so you put the headlights here. This is a G perm, you should learn your PLLs, but here you did the T perm and then you did a U perm. This is already aligned, so you did a cube rotation, which saves you 2 U moves compared to not doing it, but it's still faster to do those 2 U moves. So you should instead do this, and then do the U perm, and then do this. For the scramble, we have the orange and red pieces already attached here, and green and blue are here. So you did this cross solution really well, which is by putting in blue like this, and then moving it here to put in orange and red, so just like that. And then next is green, by aligning the bottom, putting green in, and then align the bottom back. That cross was very efficient, but it still could be improved. Your turning did look a little bit hesitant, like you weren't exactly sure what your next move would be all the time. Make sure that for the cross you try and turn really fast as if it's an algorithm. Your first pair is orange and green, and you pair them up like this. A little improvement you can make that prevents the U2 U2, which is a bit slow, and also from regripping your hand, is like this. So U2 like this, and then instead of moving this to the back, you can move it right here, and then insert like that. Your next pair was this one, and you moved it over here, and then did a regrip thumb to the bottom. Remember, you don't have to do this, never regrip thumb to the bottom. So instead of RU2 R prime, and then insert, you can do RU2 with the other hand. Then here we have the same case again, so same idea, you should do it like that. And then this case. Now what you did was a Y2. I believe the reason was because this being at the back and you weren't looking ahead, so you didn't know where the piece was, and instead of doing U-turns, which is better since it could save you a rotation, you did a cube rotation first. Now if you do U-turns, it may not save you a rotation anyway, but you could save 2. So that's why you should do U-turns first. So here you rotated to find it, then rotated again and solved it. Then 2 look OLL, and soon. And then N perm. So you actually knew how to do this one, which is good. In this scramble, we have orange and green here, which is really good because they just set up like that. And then there's also red here, and then blue ends up here. So you ended up doing red like this, and then blue. What you should do is D prime so you can insert it here, or you can do D and U2 to insert it here. But what you did was a cube rotation, actually a double cube rotation to put blue over here. Try to keep as a rule for your solutions that the cross should never use a cube rotation. Here you had a lot of options. You went with these two, so like this, and pair them up and insert. And then next, you have this. You also saw this and went for this one first. Now, I don't think you noticed it from here. I think you did a cube rotation and then found it. So from here, you took it out and then inserted it like this. Instead, a better thing to do is to put the corner at the back and do sledgehammer to pair them up. Next, you had this pair and you rotated so that it is a front slot, and you should rotate so it's a back slot instead, just to make the last one a bit easier, but you did it like this. And then next we have this one. Now, if you were doing look ahead, this would actually be really easy because you just see the edge coming out, and it's also green on the side, so it won't have to have a cube rotation because it'll just match right here. But what you did instead, which is just what I talked about last time, is you did a cube rotation to help you find pieces. And again, don't rotate to look for pieces, use U moves instead, because it could be equal this way, or you could end up wasting 2 cube rotations not accomplishing anything. Then for this case, you did it like this, which is again the same idea from earlier, which is you want to do U2 with the other hand if you have to do it like that. Then OLL and PLL. This is an R perm, so you just saw headlights, I guess, because you don't know the R perm algorithms. Make sure you know these, and then U perm. This cross was pretty easy. You have green, orange, and red all attached to their opposite centers, and blue is attached here. So you can solve these 3 first, which you did like this. And then now here's blue. What you then did for blue is strange because you could do D2 to align the cross, then F2. But what you did instead was U2, B2, and then align the cross, D2. So if you knew these 2 edges would be solved, I guess that would be okay, but you really need to know how to take advantage of this, which I will show later. This is something really cool you can do in this solve. But in general, if it was already attached to the correct center, you just want to save it and leave it for the very last move of the cross. First off, you had this pair, which is great, just insert like that. And then you had this and this, also these 2 here and these 2 here. So you started by doing these 2 like this with a cube rotation. Now, this isn't the best way to do it. Just a better way for this case in general is to do this, to pair them up. And that is only better if you don't do the regrip with the U here, and make sure you know how to do this sort of U. And we'll just keep taking steps up from here. One that is even better than that is to do keyhole here. And the reason for that is because this is a bad pair. And this pair, when you solve it with keyhole, you can interfere with other slots. So what you can do is insert the corner into here, but have a different edge, not this edge, because you want to preserve this edge. So you can move it over here. Now this is the pair you can then insert into, and that solves the corner. And when you come back, this ends up being a much better pair. The last thing you could do, I'll actually just show all at the end later. So we'll just go back to what you did. Just insert like that. Then you rotated back to solve this pair. This, if you have a solved edge, you do not need to rotate. You could have just done it from the back here, like that, to take it out and just solve that from the back. But what you did was from here, you took it out like this, and then solved this case. And we have then these 2. So here you did a cube rotation, and once you noticed this was not the way you wanted it to be aligned, you cube rotated again. Now, I actually recently had an F12 tricks video mostly just about this case, which is including how to do it from all angles. So since you saw the case from this angle, I'll just show this angle, which is sledge to pair them up, and then insert. So that could have saved a rotation. But of course you did the beginner method way that you've been doing, and then to look OLL. For the second look of OLL, the one you did is F triple sexy move F prime, which is fine for beginner alg or for COLL, but instead, if at your level, you should be doing this instead. But then after what you did, you had a diagonal corner swap, so Y perm, and uperm. And going back to what I said earlier, I just want to show something interesting for the solve. After the way that you did the cross, if you insert then this pair, and for these last 3 pairs, there's something really cool you can do. This just happens to set up greatly for a pseudo slot. So when you're facing here, you could do this, or I guess E prime, and then you can insert these as a corner edge pair for blue-red and red-green at the same time, like that. Now everything is solved except this corner, which you could then just solve the normal way, but this would have made for a really efficient F2L. So overall, besides the very specific things I said, here are the things you should look out for. You should limit every F2L case to only 1 cube rotation, and sometimes it could be 0, but the general rule is 1. Don't do more than 1 cube rotation per case, and that means from the moment the case starts. So if I just solve this pair, I'm only allowed 1 cube rotation before the next pair is solved. So I cannot just cube rotate to look for pieces, and then say I solved this one using 1 rotation. That was actually 2. That means if you really can't find pieces, you'll either have to start doing U moves like this and then solve it without a rotation here. Or if this wasn't here, then maybe you could find this one using a different technique, which is instead of doing this, you could realize that the red-green piece actually is no other edge. It has to be that one. Next is finger tricks. Never regrip your thumbs to the bottom during F2L. Instead, have a way to do it without that. So for something like this, you could do U2 with the other hand. Or for something like this, you could just do index finger here or index finger here. And the last thing for F2L is if there's any case you are already good at, make sure you're looking at other pieces as you solve it. It can help to turn slower for this, not just so that you can see the other pieces more clearly, but also so you can remind yourself that you're not in a rush to solve this pair. You should be more focused on the long term, which is how you can look at other pieces. And of course, learn full PLL. Also, for critiques like this, there are always people in the comments saying I do this stuff better and I don't do these bad habits that this person was doing. Why am I not faster? Despite how it may look when I slow it down for the critique, these moves are done very quickly, and even though there's some pausing for recognition, the pauses are not too big. So that's what made these solves good, but of course there is still a lot to work on. Make sure you check out some of the videos I referenced, such as F2L tricks, if you want to keep pushing your efficiency to be better. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.